Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you a movie review. This time we're going to be talking about Dark Was the Night, right here. And if you guys seen my last video, you'll know I was finally able to pick this up on Blu-ray at Best Buy. Of course, the Blu-ray being a Best Buy exclusive. And yeah, this was actually a movie I was anticipating for quite a while. Like months ago when that first trailer came out, I just thought it looked like a very, very good horror movie. You know, something we don't get a lot of nowadays, to be honest. But I think we all know that. And yeah, so did it meet my expectations? My expectations were, fairly high. You know, they weren't like, oh my god, it's gonna be the greatest thing ever, but they were at a fairly high, level. Did it meet those? Yes, it actually did, and it actually exceeded them for the most part. I already showed this off enough in my other video, but yeah, overall, I thought it was an absolutely great horror movie, and I really enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm very glad I picked it up, and it makes me even more happy that I may be getting a certain other something related to the film, but I'll tell you more about that when the time comes, hopefully within the next week or two. I'm going to let you, kind of think about that for a while. I'm not really going to tell you anything more about that right now. But yeah, overall, a great horror movie. And, it definitely went above my expectations for the most part. Except for one thing. One somewhat major gripe I had with the movie. But we'll get to that towards the end of the video, or maybe, just a little bit later in the video, I'm not sure. But, yeah, overall, I loved it, It's definitely one of the best horror movies I've seen in the past 2 years, Definitely, it could very well be the best horror movie in the last, few years in general, that I've seen. I'd have to think about that one a little bit more, but very well could be that. Of course, it stars Kevin Durand as the lead character, Paul Shields. Then it also stars Lukas Haas. And, let's see, Bianca, I can't pronounce her last name. But, she is on Rules of Engagement and stuff like that. And all the performances in this movie, all around, for the most part, are all very, very good. Bianca does a great job. Lukas Haas does a pretty good job, too. But the real highlight of the movie was Kevin Durand and the character he was playing in this. Even the kid who played the son, Adam, let's see. Yeah, his name's Ethan. I can't pronounce his last name again. I'm sorry. But the kid who played the main son in the movie, the son that was still alive anyway, he did a decent job. He wasn't like Chandler Riggs or anything like that, but he was definitely serviceable to what he had to do in the movie. But like I said, the real highlight of the movie was definitely Kevin Durand. And I'm just going to tell you about the basic story of the movie. The basic story isn't very complicated or anything like that. But again, movies like this and movies like Animal, which I did a review on a while ago, and I just got that on DVD as well, they both really exceed in the simplicity of it, and that doesn't seem like that big of a task because, they're both kind of simple as far as how the plot goes and stuff like that. But at the same time, we see a lot of movies stumble and fail, and just doing the basic things which made other horror movies great, decades ago. But with Dark Was the Night and Animal, probably two of the best horror movies I've seen in the past 2 years, they both just really took that basic formula and just did almost pretty much as good of a job as they could do with it, unlike a lot of newer releases and things like that. And but the basic story is that it's a small town. I forget what the town's name is actually. Maiden Woods. It's like a town close to the Maiden Woods, and Kevin Durand plays Paul Shields. Like I said, he's the sheriff of this small town, and it's like it's a very cold time of year and stuff. It's kind of like a wintry type of setting, which I always really like in horror movies. You guys know, if 30 Days of Night is one of my other favorite horror movies. That's one of the other things I really liked about that film, was just that winter setting and how they use that to really... Ant's dog barking. But anyway, and how they use that to really show the isolation the seclusion and just like how, it just felt like so alone, so condensed, this area, and like all these people, like the walls closing in on him, that type of feeling and tone. And Darkest Night was able to use that in a similar fashion. Not quite to that same level, I don't want to say, but very, very similar, and something I still really liked about this movie. And he's the, I almost said manager of the small town. He's the sheriff of the small town, and it's a small town, so everyone kind of knows each other's stories and things like that, that kind of thing. And Lukas Haas's character is his deputy, and he kind of has his own past behind him and stuff like that. And what really makes the Paul Shields character a good one is that he, before the movie started, he had his wife, who was played by Bianca, like I said, her name being Susan, I think, Susan Shields, and they were like they hit like a pretty big bump in their relationship when they had a second son, but I guess Paul was supposed to be looking after him, and like he somehow like got hit himself on the head and like drowned in the pool or something like that, and ever since then Paul has like really blamed himself for his son's death. People like his wife and stuff like that keep on telling him that it wasn't his fault, that could have easily have happened if it was her there or something like that too. But you can definitely relate to this strain this would take on any good father. You can definitely understand how he'd just feel like a completely broken person, and that he wasn't like right to take care of his son now and stuff like that. And so you really feel that weight dragging with his character in the movie. And Kevin Durand just does such a superb job in this. I've always been a pretty good Kevin Durand fan. I mean, I like him in The Strain, obviously. I even liked him as far back as when he was the henchman in Walking Tall. I liked him on Vikings. I liked him as the Blob and X-Men Origins Wolverine, and various things like that. But yeah, I will definitely say this is probably the best performance I've seen from him in his career. He just really makes the whole like broken father thing very, very, very believable, and he really sells it and makes it feel it's real. It doesn't feel like it's acting, so much as it is just showing the emotions of what this character is feeling. And I read like a while ago that Kevin Durand had to really like put himself in the mind of the Paul Shields character, to really like get in contact with how he would be feeling, and apparently it kind of even took a toll on Durand's mind, kind of putting himself in that place. So it really makes it even better to know that Kevin Durand and people like that, they really dedicate themselves to the roles, especially when it's necessary, and this one definitely deserved it. And the payoff was just a fantastic performance, and this horror movie actually had you caring about the characters in this. Like I said, I liked Lukas Haas. Like I said, he was the deputy. He had just come in from New York. His name was Donnie, and his story, he got shot in the line of duty, but his partner was killed, or one of his friends on the force was killed, and so he kind of like has that weight behind him too. It's not completely the same of what Paul is going through, but they both have that similar blaming themselves type of thing going on. And also Bianca, she does a great job, showing like the wife, wanting her husband to come back to her, but also like sort of understanding at the same time. I really like the scenes of them together, her just trying to understand exactly the mental toll it's taken on them and stuff like that. That's all done pretty well. And just also I should mention that Nick Damicki is in the movie, and if you guys don't know who Nick Damicki is, you have been missing something, because he was the main star and one of the writers for Stakeland, which is one of my other favorite horror movies of all time. And he did a good job in that, so it was cool to see him have he was a pretty important, not really important, well, sort of, but he played a pretty good supporting character in this movie. He was sort of like a hunter, someone like Paul would actually come to get some insight into what animal could be going around the forest and stuff like that. So I liked him in the movie. It's cool to see him, except I still thought him was the badass Mister from Stakeland. So it's kind of odd, but still he did a good job in the role. There's even this girl that Donnie became interested in the movie. I forget what her name was, but she was played by Sabina Gaddecki. I can't pronounce any names apparently. Sorry, but she did decent too. But yeah, so all the performances were great in this movie, and what really made the movie was like two things made this movie. I'll say, the acting and also the suspense, the fantastic, phenomenal. I'll even say phenomenal build up for the monster of this. They spent almost the entire movie teasing the monster. Like showing like animal corpses. Like deers and stuff like that. And like quick flashes of it moving around and stuff like that. They just created this really intense atmosphere that I love in these types of movies. Sort of like I said, sort of like 30 Days of Night, and not really so much like Stakeland, but just we really felt like the monster's getting closer and closer to becoming even more of a problem for our central characters. So they did a good job of that. And it was really good because there were jump scares in this movie, and I know people are getting tired of that, cheap kind of stuff, and they are present in this movie, but what really makes the atmosphere in this movie is, just the suspense and the way they, sort of like build up the mystery of whatever is going around in the woods. They talk about how, there's been like a lot of lumber work and stuff like that in the woods, cutting trees down and stuff like that. And how this could actually have like angered this spirit, like a Native American legend, sort of like a wendigo, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. And so there's like this idea that this creature is actually in this like more remote part of the woods, like further out. But when they started like taking down the trees in that area, he was forced to go further down south, and that's why he's around this smaller town now. And so eventually the idea is brought that he's actually fighting, wherever it is fighting for this territory, fighting for a new home and stuff like that. So he's not really just like an evil creature. He's thought of as more of like a force of nature, I would say. Which kind of contradicts something at the end, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. And yeah, so like the best part of the movie is really acting and how they built up this story and the pure intensity of what this creature is. It's really, really well done. And, we definitely, like I said earlier, we definitely feel the weight that is with Kevin Durand's character. He's having to deal with this personal tragedy and, sort of still trying to heal. And at the same time, he's having to carry the weight of this entire town on his shoulders. Just a lot, way too much, pressure is on this guy right now. And like I said, we really believe it, thanks to Kevin Durand and some great writing from Tyler Hisel, I forget how to pronounce his name, sorry. Who is actually a pretty good guy. I talked to him a little bit on Twitter. And something I may be getting from the film will be tied to him, but I'll talk about that when the time comes. But yeah, he did a good job with the writing of this movie. And, again, the dog's kind of distracting me. So yeah, good job with that. Alright, anyway, sorry, it's kind of hard to, I'll get back into it. And, once shit really does start to hit the fan in this movie, it is pretty intense, it is, pretty good, it's what you'd expect, but, it's a good expectation, it meets that good expectation, and, sorry, I can hear my mom and my aunt and my grandma. Anyway, I apologize about that again. But yeah, once shit starts hitting the fan in this movie, it is pretty well done. And, we really feel a lot of the central characters are at risk here, like it's a small town, and, another cool shot in this movie is when they found, like, these footprints, tracked in from the woods, the dirt, they're, like, the size of, like, horse cloves, or, horse hooves, but then they're like kind of like split or divided into like 3 like little areas and stuff like that. And so that was a like creepy shot, along with like how they had like the crows or like the ravens or whatever they were, like flying overhead, and like actually heading away because they were scared of what was coming. Again, building up what the monster is. And again, it's a small town, so Paul's wanting to take care of everyone, so he eventually leads everyone to this church. That's better. It's a stronger building than a lot of the cheaper houses that would be around the small town, and they have a better way of defending everyone like that, I guess. But also, it's just a way to get all the characters together. And so I really like that, and it really felt intense when Paul decided to take the stand to, almost go out there by himself to face the creature. And we also had a great scene with him and his wife before that, as they're all in the church, sort of sleeping. We got probably the best acting scene in the movie from Durand. Just him describing the damage he's been through and his wife trying to comfort him. And, you can tell they'll eventually kind of work together again. They'll eventually kind of come together. But, again, just really, really great selling on such a mental trauma that he experienced. But, eventually him and his deputy go out there, and they're kind of looking for the creature again, using the darkness and the shadows very well in the movie. And I thought a lot more people were going to die in this movie than they did. The only people that really died in this movie were pretty much red shirts or fodder. Just people at the beginning that were used to, to show the creature kills people, and then the hunters that went after him, kind of midway through the movie. But no characters really died in this movie that we really were supposed to care about, which is kind of weird. But that's kind of, we'll get into that a little bit more later. But eventually it comes very close. I actually thought Donnie, his deputy, was going to be killed, and he was injured by the creature, but the creature was, chased off. And then Paul himself, has a confrontation with them, and, he is almost killed too, but he's actually able to stab the creature to death after the creature had taken, various shots from a shotgun, the pistols and stuff like that, as, Nick Damicky's character and Paul's wife and his remaining son were in the basement, the shelter of the church and stuff like that. And so he's finally able to kill the creature at the end, so that was pretty well done. But what really, the major gripe I mentioned earlier in my review, is the monster design, the look of the creature itself. Unfortunately, it was a letdown, I'm sorry to say. Just the design of it was just not very good, and it was pretty much all CGI when the monster is fully shown. Also, when you see running briefly in other parts of the movie, it was also CGI. But I know you seen the feet walking next to a door or something. It looked like practical effects. It looked like they actually worked pretty well with that. But then when you see this creature full on up close and personal, when everything about him is revealed at the end of the movie, you see him you see every part of him, and it's all CGI. And so the CGI looked kind of cheap. And I know this isn't a large, budget movie, but still, it wasn't very much above a sci-fi monster as far as the CGI effects go. And not only that, but the design of the monster itself is also a letdown. I mean, they built it up as original monster design never seen before. It looked really reptilian too, which is really, really weird. The look of the creature didn't even look like he fit in the movie. It didn't look like he belonged in this movie. It didn't look like that was what we were supposed to see. I much rather would have had that wendigo legend that they're thinking of before. I think that would have been better. And I also would have much rather have had this a werewolf, wolfman type of thing going on too. I think that would have been better too. But no, yeah, this weird reptilian something, I don't know. Not a wendigo, not a werewolf or anything like that. Just a weird reptilian. I don't know what it is. But the worst thing about it was the CGI effects were poor, and it just didn't, the whole design itself didn't feel like it was in the right movie. Okay, it felt like it should have been in a cheap sci-fi original movie or something like that. So that was a letdown, and that almost brings the movie ways down for me, but overall, just the great performances from the cast, especially Kevin Durand, who is just absolutely amazing in the movie, and the way the suspense was used, the setting, and things like that still make this movie a great one for me. But the monster and what he ended up looking like kind of brings it. It's still a great movie, but makes it sort of questionable to me whether it's great or very good. Whereas if the monster design was as good as I thought it was going to be, it would be definitely a great movie, no question. But right now it's kind of, yeah, it's great, very good. So yeah, overall I did really like it, minus the monster reveal at the end and what he ended up looking like. But overall I think it was a great horror film, and definitely one of the best I've seen in a long time. I'm definitely happy I have this on Blu-ray. I'm definitely happy to have this in my collection. And yeah, so if you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys next time. And peace.